Hello everyone and welcome, finally, to F124. Yes, the newest edition of EA and Codemasters Formula 1 series is finally here. I just want to quickly thank them for providing me with some early access to the new game, where today we can jump in and do our very first ever race. Yes, I'm so excited to be diving into this. You know, going to be interested to see how the cars handle and everything like that. Quickly though, before we get into this, I just want to say, if you're new around here and you do go on to enjoy, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel as well. And if you are already or want to become a channel member or a Patreon supporter, I've got a video going live tomorrow that will be racing as Fernando Alonso at Spa in the rain. But if you are a Patreon supporter or a channel member, you can watch that video right now on the channel as well. So a massive thank you to all of you guys that do already support us on those programs. But today what we're going to do is we're going to head to the all-new and improved Qatar circuit as Max Verstappen and do a bit of a last question mark challenge as our very first race inside the game. Of course, you know, something a little bit of fun. Obviously, Qatar, we've seen, has got a huge overhaul ready for F124. And, of course, you know, racing as the current world champion as well is always pretty cool to see, of course. We'll take a quick look at all of the cars. Obviously, you've got all 10 teams, as you would expect. So, obviously, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and then, obviously, McLaren, Aston Martin. That thing does look really cool in the game there. The Alpine, the Williams, the Visa Cash App RB F1 team. Catchy name. Kick Sauber. And obviously the MoneyGram Haas team, and an F1 World Cup that I've done nothing with up to this point. But yeah, let's race them as the #1 driver. And yeah, let's head trackside here for the Qatar Grand Prix.
Welcome to Losail International Circuit, still making its history in the early stages of its period on the Formula 1 calendar. It's time for the Qatar Grand Prix. 3.3 miles, 16 turns with a single DRS zone at the exit of turn 16. It is a fast and flowing track with plenty of overtaking expected through the DRS zone down into turn 1. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Russell, Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Stroll, Bottas, Albon, Joe, Sargent, Ocon, Tsunoda, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Magnussen, and Max Verstappen completes the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alongside me is Anthony Davidson.
You've got to know, you've got to have a pre-race game plan. You've watched videos before you get into the car of previous races gone by. You know where you have to place your car if X, Y, or Z happens in front of you or behind you. So having this clear game plan is absolutely essential before you get in the car.
If we don't want to be stuck near the back for most of the race, you're going to need to push early on. Good luck.
Well, hearing in then to some alternative commentary, some new commentary lines that have, of course, been added into F124. That's obviously going to be one of the big features on this game as well, and I'm sure as we go through this GP, we're going to hear a lot more of that then. But, of course, yeah, I've done a little bit of tweaking and testing just to make sure I'm happy with the game, obviously, you know, with my settings and everything like that. I will have a full wheel settings guide coming out when I can sort of release full footage, you know, unrestricted down the line. But, yeah, really looking forward to diving in to this first race then. From the back of the field, we're going to go with the alternate strategy, and let's see what we can do. Waiting then on those 5 red lights here in Qatar. It's an awfully long hole, but it is lights out and away we go. As actually, you see, yeah, traction on this game is so much easier than in previous titles, so I think race starts are going to be a whole lot easier. So make our way, though, down in towards turn 1. Trying to look potentially around the outside of our old teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, I'm sure he's hoping he can become Max Verstappen's teammate again in the not-too-distant future. But yeah, I think there's more of an offset this year between the soft and the medium compounded tyres. You can see Magnussen desperately trying to make moves early on, trying to utilise those soft tyres to the best of his ability. But one of the big things I'm going to say early on, the handling, so different. So different. I'll be honest, at the moment, I'm not a particularly big fan of it. It feels incredibly sensitive. You've got not much play in the range before the car just understeers, which I'm really, really struggling to adapt to at the moment. I'm sure, obviously, as we continue going through the game, it will become a whole lot easier. But the cars feel very, very twitchy. You know, they change direction incredibly quickly, but kind of in a way that feels very unnatural to me at the moment. But yeah, the new Qatar circuit, though, definitely feels a lot more like the real track. Of course, it kind of felt incredibly bare bones on last year's game, and certainly feels very different as well. You know, you'll notice through there the circuit is a lot narrower, and obviously the pit lane as well has been adjusted, because at the end of this year, yeah, the pit lane is actually entry is going to be out of that final corner, but making no progress then on lap 1. We are up against the ultimate AI, and obviously just trying to slowly steer ourselves into a rhythm into this race. Yeah, like I said, I think, oh, you see there, the curb, incredibly sensitive, and you try and make any small adjustment, and the car immediately just wants to dart the other way. I mean, we've got 20 laps to try and get used to this thing, but yeah, going up against the ultimate AI, I haven't got much time to try and sort of get up to pace, but I certainly feel, you know, if you were on medium traction control or full traction control last year, you'll certainly...
Use overtake, use overtake.
I think you're going to stand a really, really good shot of being able to, you know, lower that traction control or completely turn it off on this year's game, because it is so much easier to sort of get the car hooked up and that kind of thing. You know, coders have said it was based on real-world data that kind of the cars in previous years have really, really struggled with. But I mean, there, the front end just immediately wants to tip in. These cars have got so much more front end than we've had on previous games, and I would have thought, to be honest, in the early stages of the game cycle, probably we're going to be trying to tune that out a little bit more from some of the vehicles as well there. But new fastest laps coming in from some of our front runners. Of course, we've got the all-new DRS on lap 2, so hopefully we're going to be able to get a run on Danny Rick, because I really don't want to spend all afternoon at the back of the field. And the outside of Ricciardo at turn 1, really careful not to induce that understeer, but we'll complete the move. We're up into P19. As I'll let you guys enjoy a little bit of the audio as well, because the cars certainly sound different on the onboard as well. You get a lot more audio settings in this year's game to suit your preference. Our way though down in towards the final sector again. Those flat out corners, they are still very, very good fun on this game. You know, they certainly feel a lot more sketchy than they did in last year's cars. They honestly feel like they've got probably, I would say, as much grip, but certainly in a very, very different way.
Right,
of course, obviously, I have tweaked the setup.
8.3 seconds.
Checo a long way up the road as we'll try and get past another of Max Verstappen's former teammates, this time round down the outside at down the inside, sorry, at turn 1. You see front locking now is a lot more prevalent as well, so I think trying to tweak the brake bias is going to be really, really important, trying to adapt and adjust to that. It also means the tyre wear is a lot more dynamic, so you'll see early on we've absolutely destroyed that front left, but the rest of the tyres pretty much unscathed. As I said, I think tyre management this year is going to be a lot more important, so hopefully that's going to favour smoother drivers, which I'm praying kind of falls into my wheelhouse a little bit more. You know, anytime you lock at the front, even just a little bit, you know, you're noticing how much wear that is putting into the tyre there. As you can already see, yeah, that front left absolutely takes a pounding around here anyway, but it's certainly, as we've slowly tried to steer the car into the rhythm, We have definitely struggled with that, as we'll go down the inside of Kevin Magnussen. So his soft compound tyre is not working too well, but you notice as well the difference between being on or off the battery pack. Magnussen there, we flew past him, came off the ERS, and immediately he was able to get straight back alongside me. So, yeah, it feels like this year's game is going to be a lot more sensitive. It's going to require a lot more kind of, you know, thoughtful control. Which maybe is a good thing that the cars are a bit easier to handle, because you're going to have to spend so much more time worrying about everything else. My goal in this race, though, is still to score some points.
You might experience some understeer now that you're in the wake of the car ahead. Try to get past as soon as possible.
Interesting little radio message from Mark. Thank you very much, mate. Hulkenberg there as well, just going a little bit defensive down in towards the penultimate corner. So you see the AI now are much more willing to kind of sit half off the racing line, just to try and not crowd you out necessarily, but just make you think twice about going for a move there. As Hulkenberg, again, that might have been slightly too late to be trying to move across me, but the DRS, incredibly potent, more potent than it felt on last year's game as well. But that was also a Red Bull going up against a Haas. Of course, I'm sure we'd all expect this Red Bull to be able to move its way up through the order pretty quickly, as Alex Albon, Charles Leclerc, and a handful of others already peeling into the pit lane, so very, very early.
Look into changing your ERS mode in the MFD for a more conservative burn rate, or you might want to try some lifting or gentle braking to recharge.
So there we go, you can see we're currently still leaving it on ERS medium, so obviously I believe we've got 3 options, don't we? We've got none, medium, or hot lap, or overtake. So 4 options there, so obviously that'll absolutely burn through it in an instant. So I believe obviously you can just manually force it up into overtake, obviously just by pressing your bind on your wheel. But yeah, is hot lap mode going to be that relevant in races? I guess we'll find out. Sergio Perez also into the pit lane there, as now we've got some DRS off Esteban Ocon. He's got nothing. So let's just not use any battery. Let's just see naturally how powerful the DRS is around here. See, we'll get a good run on him to the outside, and we are all the way through before we get onto the brakes there. So Alfa Romeo now, or Kick Sauber, sorry, I should call them. I'm going to have to get used to that. Now with a 1-2 in this GP, so looking pretty good for them. See, they had a good run here last year as well. But yeah, the AI able to take those soft tyres slightly more than I was expecting. Builds a little bit of confidence for me, because yeah, that front left is looking angry.
That gap ahead, please. 5.6 seconds.
I can already tell just by doing this one race, of course, especially once you've become a little bit smoother and setups are a bit more fine-tuned. Yeah, 50% races still are absolutely just going to be 1-stops. There's going to be no kind of overlap between a 1 or a 2-stop on this game. As Valtteri Bottas then, that's very early. If he wants to go to a set of softs towards the end of the afternoon, he might be looking to go hards instead. As Zhou Guanyu then is going to lead this Grand Prix. It would be nice to know what tyres Bottas is going on to, but I don't think Hamilton and Leclerc are that far behind. He is going hards, so clearly the AI still not really... Whoa! Wanting to go on alternate strategy. That's what I mean about the sliding, though. I'm not convinced if you ended up in a moment like that in a Formula 1 car and you just mash the anchors, surely it'll spin round on you rather than straighten back up.
Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach and make sure you don't speed.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Always need that reminder because I'm bottle job on this game.
9.1 seconds.
I don't believe anything has changed in terms of pit stop etiquette on this game. Of course, what has changed, though, is where we've got to try and make our entry into the pit lane here. Is that right? I don't really know. That looks about right. This is a very late pit lane entry, or pit lane speed limit lines. So, yeah, it is still, you know, the standard procedure. Press number 1. Try and make sure that I've nailed that, which we have. And over onto the softs we go. Beautiful.
Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that.
Nice, clean, tidy pit stop as, yeah, Albon and both of those Kick Sauber cars are going to fly past me. So is Logan Sargent. I'm hoping we've come out ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. I don't think we will, though. So our pace may be struggling a little bit more than I expected here.
Tyres through to the end now.
Make sure we roll on the throttle, and, well, yeah, we've only re-emerged in P18, so we should be the fastest car on track towards the end. But we've got our work cut out. Funnily enough, yeah, a Red Bull on fresh softs is going to be a lot quicker than an Alpine on some warning hards, side by side with Esteban Ocon.
Okay, good work. Great pass.
I mean, if I was his teammate, that's probably how hard he should race me, but we're not. But we've made it through. So clearly the AI is still there. I know they would do that on F123. Really like sort of turning for an apex, whether you're on the inside or not. That doesn't seem to have changed there, as we'll try and get a run on Yuki Tsunoda out of the final corner. They're coming from a long way back, but with the battery, with the DRS, you get so much extra speed there. Down the inside of Yuki will go. And that's another 2 cars navigated. Another thing I've absolutely noticed going through this race is you seem to be able to charge the battery pack up quite quickly. I think you're going to be able to use battery a lot more often inside F124 when you are racing. So, you know, it won't be that it takes 3-4 laps to recharge. You can really get it done in 2. Even around Qatar, I mean, this place was notoriously difficult to charge up the battery pack on last year's game. So we have closed in onto Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Doesn't really feel like, because you've got so much traction, that switchbacks are going to be as easy to try and navigate here, but we'll try and get a double overtake done on the Haas cars. 3 wide down in towards turn 1, and Mark's telling me about something else, but we're making the double overtake work. That got incredibly scary. But we are, yeah, about 7 seconds away from the points. Like I said, I really want to try and score. Well, now I'm starting to see why the AI had to pit so early off of their soft compounded tyres. We've been on these for, what, 3 laps? And we're already up at over 30% wear, so we might actually have to nurse these towards the end of the GP. Problem is, I'm not taking much time out of Bottas, well, the Kit Saubers and the Williams, because they're all just slipstreaming each other. Oh, we got yellows. Someone maybe having issues a bit further up the road. Is that going to allow us to maybe gain a freebie towards the end of this race? Again, that's what I mean about the oversensitivity of the cars there. I'm not convinced the cars should handle like that. It is Lando Norris, though, out of the Qatar Grand Prix. So a disappointing end to the afternoon for the second of the McLaren drivers. I haven't actually seen where he stopped, so he must have got off the circuit pretty well, or has hidden that McLaren car quite nicely. But Lando Norris out of the race with a mechanical failure, so clearly Mercedes power struggling with the heat here in Qatar. But starting our final lap then of the Grand Prix, it looks like both Kit Sauber cars are going to get a double points finish here. That's certainly a result to write home about so far this season, but we're getting 10% tyre wear a lap on this set of the soft compounded tyres, so we have absolutely chewed through them. And you're seeing now how much we're struggling to even keep the car pointing the right way. I'd say really now, just trying to keep the car on the island. I mean, 13th place is not exactly what you call a good Max Verstappen finish, is it? I don't think I've done him much justice so far this afternoon, but yeah, I must admit, obviously, I did a few laps on time trial, really just trying to dial in, make sure everything was set up correctly, and I was honestly incredibly nervous about the way this game handles. But after moving in and doing this race, it seems, yeah, that smoothness is going to be real key. And obviously, time trial is going to be a very, very different driving experience there. George Russell, though, is going to win the very first race we've done on F124. We're going to come through last to 13th place as Max Verstappen.
Gotta go with everything, man.
The British driver will look up and see the checkered flag first. George Russell takes the checkered flag.
To witness such mastery of these conditions, these changeable conditions that we saw today, is very impressive indeed. So a huge congratulations to this driver for taking victory today.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, there we go then. We got to have a little bit of a look as well, obviously, at some of the new celebrations there and some of the nice new alternative commentary as well that we get on this game. But George Russell takes the win, just 3/10 clear of Hamilton, so it was a very, very good battle at the front of the field there. Oscar Piastri could not quite convert pole to victory, but 20th to 13th for us. Actually, looking at the fastest laps, we were pretty much there in terms of raw pace, but of course, yeah, we just didn't have enough extra over the AI to make much of an impact as the Grand Prix went on. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. If you got any questions as well, make sure you ask them down in the comments below. I'll try to get back to as many of you as I possibly can. And yeah, like I mentioned, tomorrow we're going to be racing at Spa in the rain as Fernando Alonso. But again, if you want to become a YouTube member or a Patreon supporter, you can watch that video now. Thank you all so much, and we'll be back very soon with more F1 24 content.